Hello, my name is Jerry Warner. In this video tutorial I'll show you how to get the infinite white background look, also called the Apple look. This look works out great if you want to place your text or graphics on the screen next to the person you're making a video of. This style also works out great for tutorials shot in a studio environment. In this tutorial I'll show you how to light for the infinite white background, and something very important a lot of people leave out of their tutorials about white backgrounds: your DSLR camera settings. Let's first take a look at some hardware. And the first thing we're going to look at is our background, the actual material we're using as background. What I have here is photographic paper. And if you hear, you can tell it's pretty heavy paper. This is pretty heavy. And the nice thing about white photographic paper is the fact that it's less apt to wrinkle. I still have clips here on the side to help keep it taut in between so it doesn't have any waves in it. And I also have some clamps on the bottom to keep weight on the bottom to keep it stretched out. So this is one method. This is what I like using. Nice thing about this, it comes in a big roll. It's about here I can get it for about $48 right from a photographic supply house, which does not have any shipping. I just go down and pick it up, and I was able to pick this up for $48. This is like I think it's about 110 inches in width, and it's great material. When you get done using a part, or if you bring it out on the floor and people stand on it and it wrinkles and you decide not to use that portion, you simply cut it off and give it to your kids. They can draw on it so it has a secondary use. So that's the first material, and this is the material I actually recommend. It has less hassles than using white muslin. This is white muslin. This is quite a large piece. This is about 20 by 30 feet of white muslin. White muslin, the disadvantage is, as you can see right off, it comes with wrinkles kind of built in, and you'd have to steam those out. You'd have to have it tight. It takes very little light to light up a photographic white background, and it takes more light to light up this fabric, this muslin type fabric. Let's talk specifically about lighting, and specifically about lighting of this background. I have on each side of this background, I have a bank of lights. And what these are tubular fluorescent type lights. And I'm only using half the amount of lights because I have this particular type of paper. I really don't need that much lighting. Each of these is putting out about 160, 180 watts. And right now on the one bank, if I turned them on, they'd be about 360. So altogether I'm using about 360 watts on the upper part of the screen and covering it that way. The other way we can light, I also might mention that on the floor I also have some lights that are from Home Depot that are LED lights, and these are really great because they don't get hot and they're super bright, as you can see right here as it blinds the camera. And I will use those sometimes on the bottom, not all the time. So if I want to light the whole thing, I will use those on the bottom part of the screen. The other thing you can do is, if you don't have a budget, because these bank lights are kind of pricey. They're around $320, $350 a piece, and that doesn't count the stand that it goes on. So when you get done, you could be in around $350, $375 for the whole assembly. So they're actually pretty expensive. But another option that a lot of people use to light is simply go down to Home Depot and buy this style of light. They actually are kind of fragile. If you drop them, they bend pretty easy. But you can go in and get a fluorescent light, 50 watts, 75 watt. I think this one's a 75. And all you do is get a light stand such as this, or a pole of some sort, and you just simply place these lights on the pole, and you can put on 4 lights, and if you have 4 50-watt lights on each side, it will easily light this white background properly. So that's all you need. You need enough light to make it even all the way across, but you don't want too much light. If you get too much light, especially on the paper, it will spill off of the paper hit the person in the back and you'll see kind of a halo around that person's head because you have too much lighting. So you just want enough light. Now let's talk about lighting the talent. And this particular studio right now is set up so that I have a key light that's on my left and I've got a fill light that's on my right. In reality, they're both the same because they're set at the same intensity. So I'm not really trying to fill so much with this one. They're both the same setting. I also have, over towards the camera, I have an LED light that is similar to this light right here, and sometimes I use this large one. Depends on what the environment is. If you're going to buy a light, these are really cheap. You want them, first of all, you want to buy an LED light that you buy the external power. If you use the battery, sometimes the batteries will corrode right off and ruin the light, and it's just easier in a studio environment to have a light that has external power, such as this one's battery or external. This one is about $29, and with the adapter, power adapter, I think you're looking at another $15. This particular light's like $200, but if you have this light, you'll never need a brighter light. This light is extremely bright in any environment, and comes with power or a battery pack. So either way, both of these are good. And I use these for filling in areas where there's shadows. And so I might have one or two. If we're doing an interview where there's more than one person, well, you obviously need more than one light. The other thing that you can use those lights for are for hanging from above, so that you can actually have a hairline light, so the light will shine behind the person and actually light up the hair. When you got a white backdrop like this, that becomes less necessary because you get a lot of light coming off of that, and so it should light up your head, good enough. And if it lights it up too much, like I mentioned before, if you get kind of that halo effect, all you have to do is move the talent further away from the backdrop. This is not a lighting tutorial, but really quick, I just happened to think about this and putting this together. I mentioned that I bought this LED light from Home Depot and how great it was. And the reason why it's great is I'm going to turn off this one bank of lights here and show you. I'm looking at so many lights that I'm going blind. But I'll show you that as I bring this across, you can see the light over here, the color. As I bring this across, you can see it blends very well with that color, and it keeps it in kind of a whitish look, a blue-white look. And that's more or less a daylight type of light. When you buy a light from Home Depot such as these, and you get fluorescent lights for them, there is an issue. You want to make sure you buy a light that is a daylight light and not a soft light. This one right here that I'm holding up, moving, is a soft light. And if you look on the screen, you'll see how this, I hope you see, you'll see how this is kind of a yellow tint. While this daylight LED, you'll see it's kind of a bluish white. And that's what you want. Notice how that blends in with the other light, but yet this one turns it more yellow. Now where you might want this is if you have somebody that is too white because of the lighting and you want to add a little bit of color, and so you might add a little bit of this color, soft light into it. But keep that in mind when you're buying the lights. These LED lights also come with covers, and depending on the light you have, they can come with one color or three different colors. This one's a particular orange color. Once again, it's great for if you want to add a little color to your talent. So that's lighting for the talent. Now I'll talk about the second component in getting a good infinite white background, and that is the camera settings. Now, one thing I learned, I made a mistake on to start with, is I actually bought a Canon 70D to start with, and was using it on a white background. And being new to photography and video using a DSLR camera, I simply put it on auto and expected good results. If you're doing that, I can tell you right now, auto does not work as well as going to the creative settings or manual settings on the camera. So first thing you want to do is turn that knob or turn that setting and get off of auto. And when you do this, the next step you want to do is set your white balance based on your white background. Set the white balance on the camera. And I'm not going to get into how to do that on your camera because there are so many YouTube videos for every camera, and I'm sure you have manuals on how to set white balance, and you probably know a lot more about videos than I do and DSLRs that you can set your own white balance. So set the white balance on the camera. The other thing you want to do is on a Canon camera, there's the exposure compensation. After you set the white balance, the next thing you want to set in the camera is the exposure compensation. Because what you want to do is to change the automated part of the camera to where you can get a better appearance of the person's face, a better color of the person's face, and you do that with the exposure compensation, or compensation is exposure. I'm not sure which way that goes. I think it's exposure compensation. And so you want to be able to do that. And if you do the white balance and the exposure compensation, then that will give you a great look. What I'd like to point out to you right now is some other little things that you will want to know in setting up your camera based on whether you're using a teleprompter or not. And so I'm going to show you that. Let me get into a different view. What you're looking at is a Canon 70D mounted on a teleprompter mount. Here we have a Canon 70D, we have the mount, this is the screen right here, down here is the table that holds the iPad. What I wanted to show you is the fact that even though this was, we did the white balance with this while it was mounted, and we also did the exposure compensation when it was mounted. If we look over here at the monitor and zoom in, you'll see that right here is the exposure, and it's 2 points beyond the number 1. So the exposure is a lot higher than it was on the other 70D that we did not have on the mount. Okay, what you're looking at now is another monitor, and it is connected to another Canon 70D that is not behind a teleprompter. It was set up the same way with a white balance and exposure compensation. If you look at the exposure, you'll see that it's slightly below the 1 dot below the 1, while the Canon 70D that was behind the teleprompter was slightly below a 2. So there's quite a bit of difference. So you see that the glass, light splitting glass on the teleprompter makes you have to compensate quite a bit for the amount of light that's actually coming into the camera. I hope this tutorial has been informative. You might also want to visit this channel's website, www.inspiriotutorials.com, and subscribe to this channel to see upcoming videos.